Hey, I am firearms attorney Gilbert Ambler, and today I want to talk about the forced reset trigger issue. We've talked about this before. I'm sure many of you are aware of this issue, but I can tell you we've been getting an awful lot of calls about this lately, which is why we need to talk about what to do if you receive a letter from the ATF regarding a forced reset trigger that they allege you own. And as you can tell, I'm dressed down today. I was out shooting today, actually, got a range day in. And while I was on the range, I got multiple calls from people that had recently received letters from the ATF, which is why I came back and stopped in at a friend's house making this video right away because I want to get this information out there. We need to talk about how to handle it if you receive one of these letters from the ATF, okay? And as always, if you have not yet liked this channel, if you have not yet hit subscribe, go ahead, hit subscribe for us, like this, share this, comment. That way you and your friends can keep getting this pro Second Amendment information. All right. You all know what I'm talking about when we say forced reset triggers. We are talking about a trigger that was sold, wide open triggers, rare breed. There's a couple of these triggers that were on the market. They were sold as trigger upgrades to many firearms, to AR-15 pattern firearms. Many people bought them, and at the time they were sold, they were not considered machine guns, at least by the people selling them or the people purchasing them. Unfortunately, the ATF has a different take. The ATF has taken the position that they are now machine guns, and in fact, always were machine guns, including at the time of purchase. So they allege if you have one of these things, even if you bought it from your local gun store, bought it lawfully at the time you bought it, ATF is saying you are in illegal possession. And that's an issue because the penalty for possession is imprisonment of up to 10 years and a fine of up to $250,000. So if you got one of these nasty grams from the ATF saying, hey, we think that you're in possession of one of these forced reset triggers, what that letter is going to tell you to do is it's going to tell you to take that trigger and deliver it to your local ATF field office. Well, I am concerned about that. And I'm concerned about that for a couple of reasons. The big reason is they are not offering immunity if you turn these triggers in. If you go take this trigger to the ATF field office, and I know many of you out there on the internet are going to say, well, it's not a machine gun and they can't prove it's a machine gun, so I wouldn't do anything with it. And I understand that position. That's an easy position to take, especially if you have nothing to lose. But if you've got a family and a job and you're worried about the ATF serving a search warrant on your property because you have one of these triggers and got a letter, I understand why you might want to do something. But turning it in is probably not the best option, or at least you need to think about your options. Because if you turn it in, you are quite literally handing the ATF evidence of something that they say is a federal felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison, and they are not offering you immunity simply because you took it down to their office and turned it in. So what other options do you have? Well, many people are calling attorneys, and here's where I want you to pay attention because I want you to understand if you call an attorney, what advice they might be likely to give you, what they might be saying, and what an attorney can advise you to do. Because if you call the attorney and say, I have already destroyed this trigger. I don't have possession of this trigger anymore. Maybe I had it at one point, but I don't have it now, and I got this letter from the ATF. Then the attorney can help you craft an affidavit, send an affidavit off to the ATF, telling the ATF that you are not in possession of this trigger. And to be clear, the attorney has to believe that you are not in possession of this trigger in order to help you in that way. What the attorney cannot do is the attorney probably cannot tell you to go destroy the trigger if you have not done so prior to the call with the attorney. Because the issue is that destroying the trigger might be viewed as destruction of evidence because you know that the ATF considers it contraband and you have gotten individualized communication from the ATF about your possession. And so if this would be construed as an investigation from the ATF, and you then thereafter, after getting that notice that they're looking at you, decide that you're going to destroy the trigger, that would be destruction of evidence, and that's a crime. And because it's a crime, an attorney cannot advise you to do that. Ethically, attorneys are not allowed to tell people to go commit a crime. So very, very different story if you call an attorney and say, I'm currently in possession of one of these things. How can you help me? The advice is going to be far more limited. If you call the attorney and say, I already destroyed it, even if you committed a crime, even if you destroyed it after you received the letter, which of course could be destruction of evidence, The question then would be, how could somebody prove it? And the attorney certainly doesn't have to help anybody in proving that against you. In fact, the attorney's job is to protect you if you hire that attorney. And so if you call the attorney, I want you to be very, very clear. There's two paths you can take. You can call the attorney and say, I am currently in possession of one of these things, in which case the attorney will tell you, well, I probably can't tell you to destroy it. But if you call the attorney and say, I already destroyed it, then the attorney can say, well, we can communicate that on your behalf to the ATF, and we can help protect you from any type of destruction of evidence charge that they might bring, or any type of possession charge that they might bring, because you're disclaiming your possession through the attorney. And of course, no one has to disclose at what point you actually destroyed this item. And I would advise people to exercise their Fifth Amendment right if they do make the mistake of destroying it after they receive the letter. And of course, just to be clear with everybody, I'm not advising you to go destroy evidence. But if you do destroy evidence, it gives the attorney a way to help you with the possession issue. I hope this makes sense to everybody. If you have additional questions about this, feel free to reach out to us. And again, until next time, please continue to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about this channel.